And welcome to Conservatives Talk.
And we have another very special guest this week. Our guest this week is going to be running for second vice chair of the Georgia GOP. So stay tuned.
Do not stop watching this episode. If you do, your life will drastically change for the worst.
Yep.
And welcome back to Conservatives Talk. My name is Justin.
And this is Jamie.
And as always, we like to take a moment to remind our viewers to make sure they're hitting the like and the share button on all of our productions on any platform that we do release them on, as well as make sure you're hitting the subscribe button. That way you will never miss a single moment of any episode that we do produce and put out there. We also encourage you to go to our website at conservativestalk.org and hit that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and help us out with what you're able to, because you will be directly contributing to Jamie and I one of these days taking over the world, ruling all things, correcting all wrongs, and making everything right once again.
I'm with it.
Wow, that's the first.
I know.
So, Jamie, with that in mind, you want to give your first reminder?
Boycott hometown headlines.
Actually, take it. Hang on. So with that, Jamie, you want to give your first reminder?
Boycott hometown headlines. Do not forget that we must get rid of all of the liberal media in Northwest Georgia, and it starts with boycotting hometown headlines and getting rid of their ownership.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. I'm starting with the next attack.
So we also want to say a quick thank you to our affiliates. Our first one being Net News Network. So make sure you're going to netnewsnetwork.net and checking out exactly what it is that Net News Network is. It is a online massive grassroots organization that allows local broadcasters and local content producers to go out, give on the ground perspective of exactly what's going on in their areas. So if you want real firsthand information, make sure you're going to netnewsnetwork.net. We also want to say a quick thank you to Veterans for America First. So Veterans for America First is the premier America First policy organizations. They only allow America First policy content producers to participate within their organization, and they do that on their platform of Vet Voice. So again, you will only find America First content producers on this media channel. So make sure you are checking out Vet Voice, an affiliate or the media arm of Veterans for America First. So with that in mind, Jamie, how about you give your introduction?
Let's get started then. And we have a very special guest today. And like we said before, we want to bring up Ken Carroll, who's running for GAGOP second vice chair. And so, Justin, you want to bring Ken in?
How you doing, Mr. Carroll? You there?
I'm doing fine, guys. Please just call me Ken. And I'm about as fine as I can get.
Yeah, it's Mama and the military. She beat it into me pretty hard. So if I slip up, you'll have to forgive me.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard to get mad at somebody because he was raised right.
Well, Mom watches the show, so I'm sure she'll take the compliment.
And she will definitely be commenting if I mess up or if Justin messes up at all.
But Justin doesn't mess up. It's just Jamie.
Most of the time.
So, Mr. Carroll, Ken, the reason why we're bringing you on is we know that you are running for a statewide position within the state party, and we wanted to get to know you a little bit better and allow our viewers, who quite frankly will likely be voting for you if they do like your message and what you're saying. So we want to give you the opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself. So can you give us a little bit of your political resume, as it were?
Sure. I say I'm a native Georgian. I got active in the Republican Party when I lived in Texas back in the early 90s. I wrote speeches and actually ghost wrote some articles for Henry Bonilla when he was running for Congress out there. And he won. He was the first Republican to ever win that district. And when I moved back to Georgia in 1993, I wanted a Republican congressman, and we'd had J. Roy Rowland forever. He's a Democrat. And when I came back, I was told that Saxby Chambliss was running for Congress. So I went down to Moultrie and met Saxby and wrote Saxby's position papers, and I wrote some speeches for him, contributed a little bit to his campaign as far as writing goes, and then did some other odd things for the campaign. And the very first Republican district convention I went to was in 1995, and I was elected to the state committee, and I've kind of been rolling ever since. So it's been, in Georgia, this is really my 30th year or 31st year active in the Republican Party. I'm currently the Assistant Secretary for the state. I've been the 8th Congressional District Chairman a couple of times. I've been the Dodge County Chairman a few times. And let's see, I was the chairman of the 159 committee. We were charged with organizing the counties in the state. And I'm also the 2021 Georgia GOP Volunteer of the
Year. Wow. That's very impressive. So why second vice chair and why now?
To be honest with you, they had a lot of people ask me to run 2 years ago for second vice chair. But Assistant Secretary was open, and that also gave me a vote on the executive committee. And so I decided to do that. But the reason I'm running at this point, to be honest with you, Brant Frost asked me to run against him. It was on the state executive committee thread, and I kind of resented the fact that he was super excited about David Ralston being very ill. And I guess you guys probably saw the things that the GRA sent out after Speaker Ralston died, and they tap danced on his grave. But while I was criticizing Brant for doing that, he said, well, if you don't like what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, why don't you just run against me? And I said, done. Now, honestly, it wasn't as flippant of an answer as it sounds like, because I'd had several people ask me to run against him already. And I have some problems, not with Brant as a person or what Brant says his positions are. I have a problem with the way Brant's trying to do. When you have somebody who is on the state executive committee and recruits Republicans to run against Republican legislators who are incumbents, just because they support the Speaker of the House, I've got a problem with that. And we're talking about people who are conservative. We're not talking about Robert Dickey and Dale Washburn, for example, are rhinos by nobody's stretch of the imagination. But Brant decided he needed to recruit people to run against them, among others. I think he has confessed to 10 people he recruited Republicans going against in primaries. The problem is there were over 40 Democrats statewide who had no Republican opposition. So if you're going to recruit candidates to run as Republicans, why not recruit them in the districts where we don't have candidates? Why go after people who are stalwart conservatives just because you disagree with them about their choice of speaker?
That's actually a
valid
point.
Yeah,
that's a very valid.
Because we could have strengthened our party across the state if we had Republicans running in these districts that Democrats, were running unopposed. So can you give us a little bit more of, you talked about why second vice chair, but you got an extensive resume, a little bit about just your platform. What would you do different if you were to become the next second vice chair?
There are three areas that I believe we need to focus on. The first one, I think we have forgotten that we're supposed to win elections. That's what the state party is here for. We're not here. We don't exist just to exist. We don't exist as a cheerleading squad. We exist to elect Republican candidates. We also exist in order to strengthen those Republican candidates at times, maybe when the conservative bills they want to pass are being challenged. We need to back them up. We don't need to attack them. The second thing that we do need to do is we do need to establish closer ties with our elected Republican officials. Right now, a lot of the officials, especially at the state level, have a lot of concerns about the Georgia Republican Party. They don't feel like they were backed up. And if you'll talk to them privately, you might not get them to admit it on the podcast. but they'll tell you that they're concerned that the state party is not a serious party and that we're not there for them. The third thing we need to do is we need to grow the party. That's kind of obvious, but I want to tell you something. My opponent is going around and tells people they're not Republicans because they don't toe the line exactly with what he believes. That's what he thinks his job is. I think my job is to find people who are not sure if they're Republicans or not and convince them that they are and get them involved. There are not enough of us to be divided up and win elections statewide in Georgia. It wasn't true years ago. It's really not true now. We've got new people moving into the state, especially in metro Atlanta. We don't have people to spare. If you agree with me most of the time, we're on the same side. You and I are not on opposite sides. And I don't hate anybody. I'm finally at that point in my life where I don't. I hope I never hate anybody again. However, I reserve the right to hate actions. And if you're doing something detrimental to the party that I put years and years into, then yeah, I don't hate you, but I hate what you're doing. And we need to bring that to an end. And we've got to unite. We've got to open ourselves up to more people. And I think most Republicans are very willing to do that. So we need everybody that's a Republican, and we need them on board, and we need them fighting hard against the liberal left. We don't need them fighting against other Republicans.
Well, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, like we will be our own detriment if we don't remember that we are a bigger tent than we are. It's kind of weird. I've always said it's kind of weird. Like if I agree with someone 100% of the time, then either one of us is a yes man. Because
Jamie's mom, yes, man.
he wishes. I mean, but if we're batting in the 70s or the 80s, then I feel that we are closely aligned and we can pretty much move in the right direction as a overall group. One thing that you said earlier, to not to backtrack or anything, that I feel is important is, regardless of whatever you think of, the former speaker, you can't disrespect the dead that way. And I found that very offensive. And I'm kind of glad you brought that up, because I think it is offensive to talk about someone once they've passed that way. But, moving forward, so give us some insight into.
Well, before you go there, I just want to kind of. So you're running for second vice chair.
Correct.
In your mind, what exactly is the function? And you brought this up a moment ago. What is the function of what the second vice chair is doing within the party, outside of being third in line to the chair?
Because I know that role looks a little different depending on like our county party. Like my second vice chair, that's more of a utility management role to make sure that I don't drop a ball. What does that look like at the state level?
Well, whereas many of the county parties and some of the district parties have a defined role for the vice chairs, the only role for the second vice chair is to support the chairman.
Okay. Yeah, I read the official rules, and it was very vague. That's the reason why I asked.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jamie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, with is there a reason why it's so vague, or how did we get to that point?
Well, I think that, I'm going to be guessing, but I think they leave it open so that you can play to your own strengths. Because if the second vice chair's job is to deal with electronic communications and internet communications, and that person isn't skilled in that position, then that's going to be a failure. So what I look at is this: my strengths are messaging, and my 159 committee and I organized very briefly every county in the state, all 159 counties. Right now, some of them have fallen away. I'm a Baptist, so I'll use the term backslider. Hope y'all will forgive me. But we've had some backslide. I think we're down to 145 now. So there's 14 that need to be organized yet again. And some of those that are not organized are not the ones we had to organize. So it's kind of like whack-a-mole a little bit. You go around some of the smaller counties, it's hard to find qualified people who have the time and who have the dedication to do it. So that's going to be a constant thing. But the organization part, where you go in and you find somebody strong in that community to get everything started, and you show them how to do the paperwork and get them going, and messaging. Because I'm going to tell you, there are times when the state party needs its own messaging. And I'm going to give you a very quick example. The 3 Senate races that we've lost over the last couple of years. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. And if I offend people, I'm sorry that it's the truth. That's the
point of the show.
Those 3 campaigns were run horribly.
We've said that on this show.
If you could hear some of the comments that we've made on show and off show, you would be within the you would fall right in there.
Majority, yeah.
Well,
100%.
Aspects of those campaigns. Some of them were run brilliantly. Some aspects of them were. Others not so much.
Well, let me tell you the common flaw in all 3 of those campaigns. Politics 101 is that you have your candidate identify themselves before the opposition identifies them. Because until people know who the candidate is as a candidate, they're not going to really listen to what they're saying. So Kelly Loeffler, David Perdue, Herschel Walker. None of the 3 of them were identified well. All 3 of them allowed their opponents to identify them. We can't do that. The constant attacks on Raphael Warnock by Kelly Loeffler in particular, the problem is she had been a U.S. Senator for just a few months. People did not know who she was. So when she attacked Raphael Warnock, it fell on deaf ears because, I mean, it's like being up in the air and throwing a punch.
Yeah.
Even if you land it, there's going to be no force behind it. And so we were attacking him before we allowed her to identify herself. And there were a lot of negatives that came from the Doug Collins, Kelly Loeffler runoff kind of thing in that primary. So she was at a disadvantage. So when she attacked Raphael Warnock, she couldn't really land a punch. David Perdue had been a U.S. Senator for 6 years, but quite frankly, he did a very poor job of building relationships around the state of Georgia. He just didn't do it. Contrast him with Brian Kemp. Now, Brian was Secretary of State before he was governor, but from the beginning, Brian didn't just build networking, he built relationships with people. So when I look at how the Perdue campaign went, they also went negative immediately. They didn't take the time to establish his identity. The Walker campaign, quite frankly, I think they held Herschel back too long. They should have had him out in front of people. They should have had him making appearances, even if he made some mistakes. Because people might have known who Herschel Walker is, but they know him as a football player, and they know him as a man who really likes children and is an advocate for them. They did not know him as a U.S. Senate candidate. And so we failed on that part. Let's take, for example, the ad that attacked Herschel where his ex-wife was there and she's talking about him holding a knife to her throat and she's crying and it's, done in black and white. And it's a very stark commercial. Now, Herschel never hid his mental illness. He wrote about it in his book. And he wrote about it in his book, and that commercial came from a documentary about mental illness and Christianity and how Christianity can help you overcome your problems.
Yeah.
So he was doing that, and he participated in that same documentary.
He was there with her. Yeah.
He was there with her on the stage while that was being said. Yes, sir. But people didn't know that. First of all, there was no counter to that commercial. They could have just shown a wider shot showing Herschel sitting on the stage with her and him just speaking over and saying, "I'm Herschel Walker. We did this to help other people with mental illness. I've never hidden this. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm fine now. But this is the shape I was in, and people can be helped." And put that into a positive message. But what should have happened before any of this got started, they should have run a commercial with Herschel talking about this. And Herschel could have said, "I suffered for multiple personality disorder. I am an advocate for those suffering from mental illness, whether it's depression, schizophrenia, go through the list, okay? And then he can say, I know what it's like. How many of you have suffered from one of these illnesses, and how many of you know somebody who has? And wouldn't you like to have an advocate on a national stage to stand up for these people? That flips everything.
Yeah.
And it turns a weakness into a strength. And honestly, I don't know why they didn't do it.
Well, I mean, it sounds kind of like, maybe some of these positions should be, and I'm going back to an earlier statement that you had made just a few moments ago. Maybe some of these positions, as far as the chairmanships go, maybe they should have defined roles.
Well, because
because it sounds like you have a great message. It sounds like you know what you're talking about and what you're doing with this. Maybe they should have some defined responsibilities, and where they have the expertise to really push a lot of this, because the chairman, it says that, or the rules say that the vice chair are there in support of the chairman to help the chairman function, move forward. But there's nothing really that says that, hey, we need someone, or there's nothing there that says that we need someone there to help define with the message and to push a message. Maybe that's what some of these vice chairmanships, maybe kind of like when you have a CFO, you have a CEO. Yeah, you have the CEO. You have people in these executive positions that have defined positions or defined job titles, and they're hired or elected in this case to fulfill these positions.
Exactly, because after hearing what you were just saying, that's a really valid point, in that we don't have any candidate relations or elected official relations between the party and the statewide executive committee. And so that would be, like, just those 2 points that you just made about the Loeffler campaign and about Herschel Walker would have dramatically changed if we had had some ability inside of the state party to communicate that. Because I think we all, as a party, as party people, as grassroots people, saw it and saw how to get it done, but there was no one or no ability to kind of get that message to the candidate to a way that they would listen. And so I think that having some kind of liaison position, or having one of the chairs, like Justin was saying, be a liaison position to officially say, hey, this is who the candidates need to work with if they're with the party, I think that really would help us long-term as a statewide party.
The state's function in my mind, the state party function in my mind, is that they are there to build the grassroots, to mobilize the voters, and to help out Republican candidates that are currently in office, that in good standing, to succeed. And it sounds like the ball may have been dropped, in your opinion, about that.
Yeah, and we're not doing that.
Guys, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. However, because the state party does give funds, I'm not sure how much you can work with the actual campaigns without violating election laws.
Yes, that is very true. But there are ways that can be done through that. Yes.
Sure. And I'm going to tell you, especially outside of the election period, we should be working to build trust with our state legislators, with our statewide elected officials, so that we can work together. Maybe we can't work hand in hand during an election, but we can lay the groundwork for working smoothly together during an election without there being any kind of information being swapped back and forth.
Bingo. Mm-hmm. That's really the key. I mean, once you can't really do it with a candidate, but you know who's going to eventually be a candidate, because all elected officials at some point are going to be a candidate, right? But like once they're elected, that gives us the ability to work with them. It's the same thing like, at the county level, you're not really supposed to pick a candidate during the primary time because it's contested, if it's contested. But, your job, your role as a chairman or chairperson or for a district or county is to kind of work with your elected officials and be that in between. And I think we need to get back to doing that on a statewide basis between the state party and our statewide elected officials.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. So you had mentioned earlier the current person in that position
Mm-hmm.
advocating and bringing on people who are bringing on Republicans that had ran against incumbent Republicans that backed the former speaker. I by no means whatsoever was a huge fan of him. I would never have done what the GRA had done as far as the putting out the information or putting out the statements that they had made, especially within the time frame that they did. I mean, that just violates every bit of Southern civility
There
out
we go.
there.
That was my big thing.
Georgia is the state of Southern respect, Southern customs, everything along that line.
Southern hospitality dictates. You just say, bless your
Yes.
heart if you don't like somebody and move on. You do not disrespect them in their own.
Everybody knows what bless their heart means.
Yep.
But it still conveys that message of, okay, we understand that. Let's move forward and do something else. And I understand how, and quite frankly, I would not be the type of person I'm not the type to try and go out and recruit a candidate because of their position with another member of the state delegate or the state house.
Yeah.
Just simply because of the fact that there are bigger things at play than who is the speaker there. It's because it's just
our goal is to win.
That's a non-factor for me.
Win as many seats as we can,
and that's coming from somebody who was never a big fan of the speaker, the former speaker. The former speaker and I personally butted heads on many things on many occasions.
This is where we disagree because I really like.
Sure,
this.
I know you did,
but yeah, again, I know advocating just the fact of I
used to be a lobbyist
or you don't,
and all, and I guess to throw all that out. Yeah.
Where you like him or whether you don't, it was just disrespectful. And I'm personally am glad that you actually said that.
Well, what would Jamie's mother say?
Oh, well, it's my mother that we really have to worry about on that one.
So what would Justin's mother say? And by the way, I do want to clarify.
Bless your heart.
Yeah. I do want to clarify one thing. I don't have a problem with primarying other Republicans.
Yes.
What I have a problem with is somebody on the state executive committee who lives halfway across the state recruiting somebody to run against a candidate, not because they're liberal, but because they don't agree on the speaker. Yes. That's ridiculous. And listen, this is my thought on it. If you live in a district that's represented by a Republican already and you feel like you would do a better job, then I think it's your patriotic duty to run.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't discourage that, but I do discourage from people from meddling in somebody else's politics that have nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And again, that kind of goes back to what we had been saying earlier. Potentially maybe either the first vice chair or the second vice chair, the job responsibilities coming in with that is candidate recruitment and going out and finding people to run against actual Democrats instead of Republicans. And maybe that should be a defined job role in what they're doing in the state party.
Well, it could be, but I'm going to tell you, there is a shocking lack of communication within the state party. And I'm not blaming anybody in particular, but there is very much a lack of communication, especially on things like assigned roles and things like that. It's not there. I mean, I'm on that committee right now, so I'm as much to blame as anybody else, I guess. But people don't talk the way they should talk. It should be the way we're talking right now, where you can go back and forth and throw things out and speak what you believe and not worry about somebody stepping on you for saying what you believe. So that is part of the problem. That culture needs to change.
Yeah.
So since you did bring that up, that kind of brings me, I guess, to maybe my final question. Being on the state committee now and looking to run for a different position, it openly admitting that there's a lack of communication. What would you do to try to work on making sure that the new board does not repeat the mistakes of the board that you're on right now?
I would say that part of the problem has been that there has been a dampening of communication. And we're going to have a new state party chairman. I think that will go a long way toward fixing part of it. I think part of what needs to be done is whoever the new chairman is needs to be made aware of this problem, because that's the only way it's going to be fixed. You've got to encourage communication, not discourage it. And yeah, sometimes it's messy because people are people, but I'm smart enough to know I don't always have the best idea in the room. And I'm willing to listen to somebody else to find out if they did, and try to be fair about it. We've got to stop talking past each other and talk with one another and sharing ideas, instead of saying it's got to be this way, and this way. That doesn't work.
Completely agree.
Jamie, I think I found your new mentor.
Speaks the one who always talks about our future dictatorship. But I knew it. Look, when I met Ken at the Fulton County breakfast, I knew that this is going to be a great candidate. And I didn't even realize how in depth his resume was when I met him. But I mean, like, this is something that we need leadership like this to be more open and communicative with the rest of the state party, because we're never going to be able to trade that level of experience and wisdom at that level inside of the Republican Party. So I think it's time that we really go back to communicating, go back to what really got this party kicked off for the last 20 years is a true grassroots effort, being physically conservative with the bank account. And we need strong leaders at the state party to trickle that down in order for it to work.
I agree with that. So I have a question for you here with this.
Sure.
All right. You said that you're open to recruiting candidates that would, or if a Republican or someone who felt like they're a Republican felt like their current representative was not as Republican as what they were doing, and they had approached you for information, and they had approached you to get your advice or to get your help as second vice chair. Is that something that you would do if, say, a potential candidate wanted to challenge an incumbent Republicans? Because let's be honest, there are some current incumbent Republicans that, in my opinion, should be replaced, just because of the fact that there are positions that they have taken. And I'm not talking just at the state level. I'm in my world, it fluctuates: state, federal, local, up and down the gamut with that.
Sure.
Is that something that you would give advice to? Is that something that you would potentially help out for? Is that something that you would, in your official capacity, help to do if another potential candidate decided to run against another incumbent? Would you help with that, or would you help with that process?
Okay, we're looking at two different things here. I provide information about the state party to anybody that asks.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of my job. As far as getting out and directly working with a candidate on candidate thing, no, I would not do that. And I don't think it's kosher for somebody on the state executive committee to do that. Right now, believe it or not, if you are a political consultant, you can serve on the state executive committee and still work with Republicans in a primary. And that's legal and legit.
Well, at y'all's level.
Personally, though, I have a problem with it. Mm-hmm. And so, no, I would not do that. I would give them information. I would tell them who they could talk to. But as far as getting out and working with them, no, I would not do that.
And I'll go ahead and say it now. Thank you, sir. That was the answer that I was hoping for.
That was the answer we were looking for.
Yes.
Because we've seen where, we I don't want to say we toe a line, right? But we're consultants as well. And
Okay.
you know, there are.
Why did you call me that? That's not fair. I didn't do anything to you. That's
But
so dirty.
there
so
still
mean.
needs to be some form of morals, and I think that there are some people
You have
who
morals?
there's some people who have forgotten that when it comes to what it means to be within leadership at any level, let alone in or with outside of the party.
Mhm.
And so I think that's another thing that we really need to get back to, is making sure that, you know, we stand on principle more so than we do, if not anything else, that alone.
That's that quite frankly is my number one thing when it comes to what the state party is right now. The state party is right now, or at least the way that it has been over the
Presented.
past. Well, not really presented. It's the way that it is.
I'm total lot here.
Well, you have to. I don't. I'm not a chairman of anything. It's forgotten what its role in the state is. And
Yep.
it sounds like you have an idea of how to get back to what its intended role and its intended function is. And that's what my big thing is that the state party needs to function within where it's with what its lane is. And it's gotten outside of that lane. And because it's gotten outside that lane, yes, we've seen a huge record number of new voters that have been involved, but we're being outpaced by the Democrats who are doing the same thing. And because the state party has gotten outside of its lane and gotten outside of its
there's some
section
people
of fire over that, we're not focusing on what we need to be doing.
There's some people who try to pick winners and losers instead of actually trying to unite the party. And I think we got to get back to trying to figure out how to unite the party.
Or not. I'm going to throw something out there that might be controversial in a little bit, but unite the party is not where what I would say would be the best option of that.
I'm ready to fight you.
The best option that I would say with that would be grow the party.
There we go. Okay.
Grow the party is in my opinion, is the best way to describe what the state party's function is. It's not uniting. It's not doing anything and bringing everybody together that's already there. It's to build and to grow what the base already is.
Yeah. Understood.
Yeah. Can I add one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
By all means.
Absolutely.
Jinx.
Listen, when I first got involved in the Georgia Republican Party, it was 1993. The only statewide official I believe we had elected at that time was Mac Mattingly to one term in the U.S. Senate back in 1980. We were a minority party. Now, Atlanta and Metro Atlanta, suburbs and everything, a lot of the transformation that they did was because of people moving in from the Midwest from Republican states. And so they had an influx of people. And you also had people who were native Georgians who were willing to listen to the Republican platform, and they liked it. Now, down where I'm from Dodge County. I am the southernmost statewide elected member of the state executive committee. And I'm about equidistant between the Georgia capital and the Florida capital. It's about the same distance for me to go to Atlanta as it is for me to go to Tallahassee. But I am very much in the middle of the state. There's a huge portion of the state below me that doesn't have anybody elected statewide. And the reason I'm saying this is because we have a very different view. I can remember going to the Dodge County courthouse to vote and saying I wanted a Republican ballot and having a very sweet little old lady, and she didn't mean any harm, even though she was committing a felony, to argue with me and tell me I didn't want a Republican ballot in the primary. I wanted a Democrat ballot because, honey, you can't vote for school board. You can't vote for county commissioner or sheriff if you take a Republican ballot. And when I finally, in the halls of the Dodge County courthouse, which there's a lot of marble, so everything echoes, when I finally raised my voice a little bit and I said, ma'am, I want a Republican ballot. Thank you. And people were turning around. She turned just as red as she could turn and handed me. But that's what it was like growing up down here. Everybody in my county was a Democrat. There were almost no Republican candidates ever. Now, everybody elected in my county is a Republican. But it took us 30 years. So we had to convert people. it's different when people are just moving in and when you have to convert them. We had to really work. We had to go after them and show them how Republicans carried federal elections in this county and say, if you don't run as a Republican, there's going to be a Republican challenger and you're probably going to lose. And so they changed, but it was really hard work. I don't want to go back to being a minority party in this state. It is ugly. I'm telling you. And by the way, the good old boy Democrats, the yellow dog Democrats back from the 90s and earlier, most of them vote Republican now. The new folks are way further left, and I don't think we're going to be nearly as kind to each other if they take the majority in this House or win the governor's mansion.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you one other thing, too. The Democrats know that Georgia is the key to winning the presidency. We're it. We're also the key to keeping the majority in the Senate. The Georgia Republican Party is the best vehicle for us to put Republicans into office. This is more important than it's ever been, and you're going to hear that every election, because with every election that comes, there is a wider and wider disparity between where the two parties stand. We don't agree on hardly anything anymore. There is not a moderate running. If there's any moderates running, they're Republicans. The Democrats that are running, very much not moderates. It's going to be a whiplash to the electorate in the state. And after 4 years, if you have a Democrat Senate, a Democrat House, and a Democrat governor, it is going to be a disaster for Georgia, and it's going to be a disaster for this nation. The stakes don't get a whole lot higher than this. So I'm running for a purpose. This isn't to hold office. This isn't because I want a different title. This is because everything is on the line right now. We don't have time to prepare for 2024 because it's going to be on top of us. We've got to get out and work hard and work together. Rant over.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more about that. I think that was very well put and well placed for that. So I just want to give you one more opportunity, and I was going to say, or I want to say thank you for coming on with this. Is there any parting or final thoughts or final thing that you want to tell our viewers in what and why they should be voting for you specifically?
Yeah, let me say again, my name is Ken Carroll. I'm running for second vice chairman of the Georgia Republican Party. I want to be a representative of all Republicans, not just a chosen few. I believe in a big tent. I believe the more the merrier. We want to elect conservatives, and we need to get as many people together to do that as is possible. I will work with anybody who will work with me as long as we're working for the betterment of this state and this party.
Well, thank you, Ken.
Awesome.
This was great. Thank you for having us. Well, we thank you for being on our show. And I was like, thank you for having us. I know.
Trying to give away the cow on the milk on that
I was so impressed. I was like, thank you for allowing us to be with you.
Jamie, I know you have your new mentor there. But come on, all right? Be professional, okay?
I'm like starstruck for a moment. But thank you again, Ken. We look forward to seeing you down at the state convention. And hopefully we'll have you again soon.
Well, gentlemen, listen, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Y'all are great. Next time we'll meet somewhere and have beers, but this was a lot of fun, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We'll hold you to that in Columbus.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm 0 for 3 in Columbus right now. I might have to take a chill pill to the state convention.
You've never been to Columbus with me.
I'm kind of nervous.
You should be.
I would be.
Yeah, well, you should be.
Ended up at a dive bar eating Vienna sausages last time. Me and Columbus, don't jail well.
I spent 10 years in the Army. I'm well aware of Columbus and dive bars and Vienna sausages.
I'm telling you.
And Maseratis.
It's every time I go to Columbus, Broadway Girl by Morgan Wallen keeps playing in the background. And that's pretty much how it ends.
No comment. Well, Ken, thank you again for coming on. We thoroughly enjoyed having you here, and we look forward to having you in March here in Floyd County.
Yep.
Well, thanks, guys, and thanks to your viewers for putting up with me this long. And we'll see each other soon, I'm sure.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. All right, sir. Well, we will be seeing you soon, I'm sure.
All righty.
All right. Okay.
All right, guys.
All right. Thank you again for that, sir. Yeah, just had to close all of
in
that
and out so we can get it there.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I've been wanting to do it for like 30 minutes.
That's awesome.
The magic.
Jamie, I didn't tell you, but I told
editor.
Justin earlier, man, I had got a sinus infection. It is. I'm on antibiotics and over-the-counter meds like you wouldn't believe. So, but anyway, listen, I had a lot of fun. I hope I didn't screw up too bad.
Oh, no, not at all.
You did
You
great.
didn't screw up at all. Yeah. Like I said, you answered all the questions that we had very well. And you did. I mean, I think you did a great job with it.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate that because I just kind of say what I think. And now, honestly, I'm in edit mode. Say that again, Justin.
I said, if anybody's used to that, it's me, believe me.
Yeah. Okay. What my dad used to say is, as this Palmer being get older, our filter shrinks.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Well, no comment.
Well, good deal.
Yeah. Well, sir, I'm going to back you back out again, and you can go ahead and go back and start recharging your phone if you need to. Jamie and I are going to finish up with the parts that we need to get in with the introduction as well as with our closing out and everything. Okay.
Do me a favor and send me a link to where people can go and see you guys and see your podcast, because I've had people asking me.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I got your email probably about 6:27 or so.
Too late.
I figured I'd just go ahead and tell you in person. With that, it would be. Is your phone ringing?
I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, it got really loud.
For a second, I really thought that was in my head.
It might be.
I was like, oh my God, they're coming to get me. They can't come get me in the middle of the show.
The internal alarm's going off.
For the longest time, I thought I was hearing trumpets, and I was like, oh, God, Elizabeth, this is the big one. I was like, I can't hear seven of them. Can't hear seven of them. Can't hear seven trumpets. Here's seven trumpets. I'm telling you, it's time to go.
Oh, man.
Sorry about that, guys. I guess you got to look inside my ear there.
No problem. So I'll send you. So it plays, or the show will play on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, and our YouTube page live on Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Okay.
And we'll have the ability to come back or they can come back and see it on Rumble if they missed the 7 p.m. I'll make a posting on our social media accounts as well. We're on Getter, True Social, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere and everywhere with that. So, it'll
run live on a few things, and then probably like right after an hour after the show ends, it goes on post on all of the social media sites. Rumble is our kind of starting to be our big one, but Facebook is our main one.
Yes.
Well, listen, if you guys will, I hate to ask you to do this. It'll take me forever. If you guys will just send me your links, I'll put it on my Facebook page and on
absolutely.
On my Twitter account. And, I do know a lot of folks, so maybe we can gin up a little extra viewership for y'all. Because I'm telling you,
that'd be great.
This is the first of your shows I've seen, and I've seen it from the inside out. So I'm already sitting there thinking, I need to see some more of these.
I mean, we've definitely had some interesting shows. We've had some shows that have been 100% committed to conspiracy theories. We've had shows where it has been, we've dubbed them as Justin versus Jamie.
Okay.
And debated issues one-on-one. We've heated over some couple.
We've had Burt Jones on the show. Burt came on when he was running for lieutenant governor.
We've had national journalists like with Heather Mullins come on.
Katie Dempsey, Representative Dempsey's come on.
And by the way, I hear she speaks very highly of y'all.
Well, she likes us a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I mean we've had some pretty big national names come on as well. David Goldenshoe, who's noted as being the legal leading authority on amending the U.S. Constitution.
Wow.
And he's been he actually sat right here between Jamie and I and did a show with us.
Talking about his Article 5 work. We've had a good bit of guests. We plan on having some more coming up pretty soon.
We actually helped win a
Ohio State House seat.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah. We did a show with a candidate running in Ohio, and he won by almost 3%, and we were instrumental in helping to really sponsor his message in Ohio in the district he was running.
Yeah,
and that was Toledo too, a Republican.
Oh, we helped flip the seat in Ohio. So
yeah, that was something else.
We're getting some work done, and technically this show will be right around our 1-year anniversary. So this is good time.
Actually, it was last show.
The
chairman's show was actually our 1-year anniversary.
So it fits.
Mm-hmm.
See, I just go in the box.
That sounds like my life. I mean, everyone that I work with is like that.
Hey, look, me and the Quake. I'm in good company.
Well, sir, it was a pleasure, and we sincerely appreciate you coming on. And I'll make sure you get those links tomorrow before they get up.
All right, sounds great. Listen, guys, I really did enjoy it, and I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing y'all in Rome.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm in Rome, I'll do as y'all do.
Exactly.
All right.
Well, thank you again, sir. And I'm sure we'll see you here.
See you in about a month
in person. See you soon.
Wonderful. Thanks, guys.
All right. See you, sir.
All right.
And again, we want to make sure that we are saying I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to Ken Carroll again for coming on to our show and giving his platform and telling us exactly who he is, what he's running for, and why he's running for it. We also want to take a quick moment to make sure that we are reminding our viewers to hit the like button and the share button on any content that they do or come across on any of our platforms that they come across it on, as well as making sure they're hitting the subscribe button. That way they will always stay up to date on all the content that we do produce and put it out, and you will always stay up to date on everything we're doing. We also encourage our viewers to make sure they're going to conservativetalk.org and hitting that sponsor tab in the upper right-hand corner or the lower right-hand corner and helping us out with what you're able to. Because again, every single little bit will go directly to Jamie and I ruling the world. So if you want Jamie and I to dictate everything that goes on in this entire universe, make sure you are contributing to conservativestalk.org. We want to remind you to say thank you to our affiliates. First one being Net News Networks. You can find Net News Network at netnewsnetwork.net and check out Veterans for America First, as well as their media arm, Vet Voice. So with that in mind, Jamie, any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Municipal elections are coming up. If you're interested in running for the City of Rome Commission, please contact me. Thank you for those who have already contacted me. We will be meeting soon. I also want to remind everyone that March 11th is your countywide precinct meetings. So that is for all 159 of us in the state of Georgia. So your county meetings for getting ready to go for state and district will be on March 11th. So look forward to getting together with the county parties and the county party for Floyd County. And I think that, I want to remind everyone that Thursday, tomorrow, we have our county meeting at John Henry's. So John Henry's Grill off of Broad Street, 5:30 if you want to eat, 6 o'clock if you want to come. We'll be talking about elections with the new election supervisor, Aiken. So we look forward to seeing everyone on Thursday as well as March 11th. That was a lot to try to remember, but thank you.
And you forgot one, Munis.
Munis. All three. I mentioned Munis first.
You did.
Yes, I did. Municipal elections.
No, I'm just messing with you.
See,
I'm just messing with you. And you fell for it there for a
I
minute.
did. I did.
See, that's the reason why Jamie needs a mentor.
This is also a reason why I have 3 PR people. But
They all report to me.
basically.
So with that in mind, I want to say thank you for watching Conservatives Talk, and we will see y'all soon.